The shocking family blessing you were never told about unlocks Psalm 128's dark secrets now. In the heart of a quiet suburban neighborhood, where cherry blossoms swayed gently in the breeze, something sinister lurked beneath the surface. No one knew about the family blessing whispered through the generations, an ancient secret tied to the sacred words of Psalm 128. Folks would chuckle over coffee cups, oblivious to the truth that bound them together, a truth that had teeth. The phrase "blessings will flow like the honey from the hive" held a darkness that lingered between their smiles. Suddenly, a chilling howl ripped through the air, startling children and sending pets scurrying under porches, as the gentle normalcy of the block fractured like a glass shard. Late last night, Chloe Wilson felt it. The unmistakable feeling, cold and clawing, snaked up her spine. She had been watching her grandmother's old home video, a grainy recording of family gatherings, laughter swelling like summer rains. But then, Grandma murmured something, a warning lost in the chorus of giggles, something that scratched at Chloe's mind. Psalm 128 brings wealth, but with hidden snares. A shiver swept through her. The air, thick with the scent of pie cooling on the windowsill, suddenly turned bitter, as if warning her. A sudden shout from the neighbors pierced her thoughts. Did you hear that? What was that noise? It was then she recalled tales whispered at family reunions, the strange disappearances, the odd accidents. People jumped from their seats at loud crashes, faces pale as they exchanged nervous glances, dodging the unspoken rule that you don't dig too deep. She couldn't shake the gnawing urge to uncover the truth. What blessing came with this curse? Was her family bound to a shadow that loomed over the generations? The sun dipped low, casting long, eerie shadows across the streets, wrapping the world in a cloak of mystery. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Chloe's breath grew quick, anxiety dancing in her chest. She finally stood up, heart hammering, drawn to the mystery that had been her family's dark companion. She could almost hear the echoes of her ancestors' laughter twisting into cries with each step she took out the door. The night was thick with tension, pulsing with suppressed secrets, and just as she reached the edge of her lawn, a flicker of movement caught her eye. A shadowy figure stood at the edge of the woods, shrouded in darkness, beckoning her closer. Who were they? What truth lay in wait? Chloe hesitated, her instincts screaming for her to retreat. Every horror movie she'd ever seen flashed through her mind. Shadows held secrets, and those secrets often ended badly for the curious. But it was like a magnetic force pulling her closer to the figure. The chill in the air seemed to breathe life into the darkness, wrapping around her like tentacles. Hello. She called out, her voice quaking. The woods swallowed her words, leaving behind an unsettling silence that hung thick with tension. The figure took a step forward, a ghastly shape breaking the boundary between shadow and light. It was like watching an old film reel change frames, one moment solid, the next a blur of movement. Chloe. The voice that emerged was hauntingly familiar and struck a chord deep within her. It was low and raspy, echoing off the trees. You're the one. Dread pooled in her gut. She took a step back but felt roots tugging her feet to the ground. Who are you? She demanded, her voice trembling. Someone who knows the truth. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a face she never thought she'd see again, her long-lost uncle, David. He looked older, his eyes sunken, hinting at madness or despair. The last time she saw him, he had been a vibrant part of family gatherings, before he vanished without a trace. Uncle David? Her mind raced. You've been gone for years. I had to leave. His gaze shifted toward the house, eyes darting as if the walls held ears. They were watching. The blessing, it's not what you think. You need to understand, Chloe. They will come for you. Who's they? Panic clawed at her throat. She thought about the stories, the whispered warnings, and the accidents that had haunted her family. Is it related to Psalm 128? Psalm 128 is both a blessing and a curse, he said urgently, stepping closer, his presence bizarrely magnetic. It feeds on fear. Your family is bound to it. You must break the cycle before you become the next sacrifice. A corpse of fear gripped her heart. Sacrifice? What are you talking about? David's face twisted with pain. You were chosen, Chloe. You were always meant to unveil the truth. But if you dig too deep, if you let them know you're aware, he glanced behind him, nervous. They'll come for you. You must trust me, but you have to hurry. Just then, a rustling echoed from behind the trees, like whispers that urged her to run. Chloe fought against the instinct to flee. Why should I trust you? Because I didn't have a choice, he replied, voice full of desperation. And soon, neither will you. The blessing they once cherished is dark and twisted. It will demand retribution if ignored. You need to learn the hidden meanings. You have to. Another howl, sharper this time. It echoed through the night, cutting through her thoughts like ice. Without warning, the wind picked up, swirling leaves around them. The woods seemed to rumble with anger. Run! David shouted. You're in danger. Chloe's instincts kicked in, but she felt tethered to the ground as if fear itself held her in place. She turned her gaze at him, pleading, help me. But just like that, David's shape began to fade, slipping further into the shadows, his voice barely a whisper now, the blessing or the curse. Then he was gone, the darkness swallowing him whole, heart racing. Chloe stumbled backward, the weight of his words crashing over her. She turned and sprinted back towards her house, her mind racing with questions. Who were they? And what had her family truly been touched by? As she dashed past the threshold, she caught one last glimpse of movement deep in the woods, a flicker of something waiting, watching. It felt like 1,000 eyes bore into her back, feeding off her fear, but she had to take control. The truth was out there in the shadows. And she intended to uncover every last secret. Before she could catch her breath, her phone buzzed violently beside her. A message flashed across the screen, you need to know, don't trust anyone. Trust Psalm 128. The words danced ominously before her eyes, and in that moment, she realized that the real fight was just beginning. What had her uncle tried to warn her about? And whom could she really trust now? Chloe leaned against the cool wood of her front door, breath hitching as panic clawed at her throat. Her heart raced, pounding in her ears like a war drum. The glow of her phone screen blinked at her in the darkened hallway, the cryptic message sending chills splintering down her spine. Trust Psalm 128. The darkness outside felt alive, pulsing with an ominous energy that threatened to swallow her whole. She took a deep, shuddering breath, attempting to ground herself in reality. Just moments ago, Uncle David's desperate warning echoed in her mind. Sacrifice? What did he mean? This wasn't just a family mystery, it was a dark curse wrapped in a blessing. Chloe flipped her phone open, searching for answers, trying to wrap her mind around the unknown. She typed Psalm 128 into her search engine, fingers trembling. The results flooded her screen, ancient texts mingling with interpretations. The first result caught her eye, a long passage filled with verses about prosperity and family. But as she read, knots twisted in her stomach. Embedded amidst blessings was a hidden warning, a subtle tone that hinted at something more sinister. Blessed are those who fear the Lord, she murmured, her voice shaky as she read aloud. You will eat the fruit of your labor, but you will not escape the shadows that lurk. The connection felt tangible, each line igniting doubt. Chloe's mind flickered back to her family's past tragedies, the unexplained disappearances snaking through generations. The blessing becomes a curse, she whispered, but before she could plunge deeper, a loud thud echoed down the hallway. She froze, the sound sending icy fingers down her spine. "Who's there?" she called, her voice small, trepidation layering each syllable. The house inhaled a breath of stillness, a suffocating silence that hung heavy in the air. A shadow shifted at the edge of her peripheral vision. Chloe's heart raced, instincts screaming at her to flee, but she anchored herself to the grim tension swirling around her. Slowly, she stepped forward, peering into the dark living room. Nothing, then another noise, a faint whisper, indistinguishable but unnerving. She edged further, heart pounding against her ribcage like a caged bird. With each cautious step, the oppressive presence seemed to tighten around her, her skin prickling with the sensation of being watched. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, a mocking reminder time was slipping away. She had to find a way to break free from whatever grip her family history had on her. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the room, swirling her hair around her face. Chloe gasped as the whispers rose, incoherent and eerie, filling the air with an aura of menace. Shadows pressed against the walls, twisting into grotesque shapes, each one a reminder of her uncle's words. "Run while you can, they will come for you." Doubt clawed within her. Was this real? Or was it all in her head, a sick game of fear echoing from generations past? Before she could rationalize, the front door creaked open, revealing a sliver of moonlight that illuminated the chaos. Her pulse quickened again as she saw a shadowy figure standing on the threshold, tall, dark, and deadly. "Chloe!" It was a whisper, but it felt like ice water pouring over her skin. The moment hung in the air, electric and suffocating. The shadows shifted, and she saw them clearly, eyes gleaming like little stars beneath the moon's glow, glancing with malice and intent. "What do you want?" Panic surged as Chloe gripped her phone tightly, ready to flee or fight. The figure slowly stepped into the light, revealing a face that made her stomach drop cold. It was someone she recognized, but their intention sent terror surging through her veins. "You must understand," they began, voice low and smooth, draped in shadows. "The truth lies within the blessing, and you're the one set to reveal it." Chloe could feel her resolve melting into fear. What truth? What blessing was worth the terror lurking at her doorstep? And just as suddenly, they lunged forward, closing the distance in an unsettling blur. A scream lodged in her throat as Chloe turned, racing back toward the kitchen, but the whispers grew louder, filling her mind with a storm of questions she was not prepared to answer. Could she survive the night? Would she uncover the deepest secrets of her family's dark legacy before it consumed her? In that terrifying moment, it dawned on her time was running out. If Psalm 128 held the key, she needed to unravel its meaning. But the shadows were closing in fast. What would she have to sacrifice to uncover the dark secrets that lay within? Chloe bolted into the kitchen, her breath coming in sharp bursts as she slid to a halt beside the counter, glancing back toward the doorway. The figure loomed there, motionless, the shifting shadows swirling around them as if they were alive. Panic surged through her, pushing her feet to move again. She grabbed a kitchen knife, its metal glinted coldly, promising protection, but her hands trembled around it. "Chloe," the figure's voice sliced through the chaos, dripping with a sinister calm. "There's no need to be afraid. We're family. I only wish to help you." But the familiarity of that voice felt like barbed wire against her skin. Yes, it was Rachel, her cousin, but something was wrong. Rachel's visage was marred, her eyes glinting with an unsettling knowledge. "What's happening?" Chloe demanded, her voice barely a whisper, laced with defiance. "You shouldn't be here. Don't you see? You're at the center of it all now." Rachel stepped closer, crossing the threshold. The shadows danced off her form, swallowing her whole as if she were part of them. "Psalm 128 is more than scriptures, it's a gateway. And you've been chosen." "Chosen for what?" Chloe's heart raced, every muscle tense, ready for a fight. "I don't want any part of this." But Rachel smiled, a chilling grin that made Chloe's skin crawl. "You think you have a choice? You bear the mark, Chloe. The secrets of our family are written in your blood." A flurry of memories flooded Chloe's mind, her family's gatherings marked by tension, stories whispered late at night, and the hidden glances exchanged over dinners. Each nuance connected like a thread woven together, and shock settled over her like heavy fog. Every blessing has a price, Rachel continued, her voice echoing strangely in the confined space. Fortune, prosperity, power, but they don't come without their shadows. And you, my dear, are the key to unlocking them. Chloe gripped the knife tighter, not ready to accept this sinister web. What do you want from me? Trust me, Rachel urged, the glint in her eyes sharp and manic. We only need to sacrifice together to reclaim what was lost. The family needs you to fulfill the prophecy align with the ancient promise. Bile rose in Chloe's throat. Sacrifice? The word drummed in her ears like a haunting melody. What had her uncle meant by that? As Rachel stepped closer, the shadows around her throbbed with energy, as though they lived to consume. It was intoxicating and terrifying. Chloe's instincts screamed at her to move, to flee, but her feet felt glued to the floor. Join me, Rachel urged, heart pounding wild as the clock ticked away the moments. Embrace the truth of our heritage. We were selected for greatness. A sweat broke out on Chloe's brow. No. This isn't greatness, this is madness. The shadows tightened, and Rachel's face warped momentarily, betraying the darkness lurking just beneath the surface. You'll regret it if you don't. Then a sudden crash shattered the tension, drawing their eyes to the back door. A furious gust of wind flung it open, the moonlight flooding the space, illuminating the horror that had remained hidden in the corners of their home. Figures began to emerge, a horde of them, moving with ethereal fluidity, their faces indistinguishable, almost faceless, yet filled with malevolence. The whispers grew to a deafening roar, drowning out every rational thought in Chloe's mind. They were here. Chloe, run! Rachel screamed, her voice barely cutting through the chaos as panic and realization collided, but there was nowhere to go. The shadows surged forward, darkened forms converging with an unholy intent. Chloe stepped back, the knife falling from her hand, the floor slipping away beneath her. In that heartbeat of terror, filled with spectral convulsions and blurred faces, she knew her choice had been made, and as the shadows closed in, choking her resolve, another truth emerged, piercing through the cacophony. There wasn't just a family history to uncover, it was a dangerous legacy, and she was at its heart. What price would she pay to unveil the truth, and could she ever escape the web they spun? Fear tightened around her like a noose, but in her heart bloomed a flicker of resistance. Chloe couldn't let them win. What would she have to uncover about herself to break free from the nightmare? The choices spiraled, each more daunting than the last. Chloe's heart pounded, drowning out the whispers that surged around her, echoing like an ominous chant. She felt trapped in a nightmare, her pulse racing, her breath quickening as the shadows glided closer. Every instinct screamed for her to escape, but the door felt like a distant memory, swallowed by the malevolent darkness. Chloe! Rachel's voice pierced through the chaos, panic lacing her once calm features. The familial connection they had shared was overshadowed by this monstrous transformation. You must listen to me. They crave your light. Light? Chloe shouted back, her voice mingling with the howls of the figures advancing. This is darkness. There's nothing light about sacrificing anything. Rachel stepped forward, desperation crossing her features. You misunderstand. It's not a sacrifice, it's a legacy. Do you want to be a coward, forever running? Or do you rise up and seize your birthright? Before Chloe could reply, a cold hand grasped her wrist, pulling her from the ground. She spun around to see one of the shadowy figures had seized her, its fingers ice against her skin. Staring into the faceless void of its presence, a chill gripped her spine. Release me! She screamed, pulling against its hold, but it only tightened, drawing her deeper into its cold embrace. That in an instant, Rachel was at her side, prying the figure's hand away with supernatural strength. You have to fight. You have the power to push them away. But Chloe felt weightless, caught in the vortex of fear and confusion. She couldn't fathom how she could possibly fight this darkness when her mind felt shattered. Then, like a flickering candle in the storm, a thought ignited. The knife. Though it had fallen, she could still use it. Gathering her resolve, Chloe reached for the ground, her fingers closing around the cool handle. The blade felt reassuringly familiar as she gripped it tightly. "Get away from me." She thrust the knife toward the figure, the blade glinting in the moonlight that broke through the door, revealing the haunting faces that swirled in the shadows. A scream sliced through the air as the figure recoiled, darkness spilling back in waves. Chloe felt emboldened as the shadows shrank away, howling at their retreat. She turned to Rachel, eyes wide with realization. "I can fight this. But I need to understand what I'm fighting for." Rachel's gaze darkened, a blend of admiration and dread. "Then we must take this to the heart of it. Psalm 128. It's more than what you think. The truth is buried under layers of deception. You can break free, Chloe, but only by embracing both sides, the light and the dark." "What does that even mean?" Chloe said breathlessly, looking around at the figures, their ethereal bodies twisting in anger. Rachel reached for her arm, her grip fierce. "You have to confront our family's past, face the darkness waiting for you there. It's the only way." Before Chloe could protest, the shadow figures surged again, led by a definitive force veiled in darkness. Panic rose, but with it, a flicker of defiance sparked. They lunged, and in that instant, Chloe felt it, the weight of her ancestors bearing down, the 100 shadows whispering a warning. Fear and rage intertwined, igniting a fire in her heart. She swung the knife again, and in that moment, she knew she had a choice. Together, she shouted to Rachel, her voice rising above the chaos. "We can break this." As they prepared to confront the horde with newfound determination, a surge of energy pulsed through Chloe, radiating like light from a dying star. But what came next was unexpected. From the darkness emerged a figure cloaked in robes, whispering words of power and loss. "You have awakened the truth, but at what cost?" Chloe's breath hitched, understanding that her journey was far from over. What had she just awakened? And how far would she have to go to save herself from the legacy that awaited her? The shadows pulsed closer, and with Rachel at her side, she braced for the ultimate confrontation, knowing that the truth lay beneath layers of darkness waiting. Was she ready to face the true horrors of her family's past? The shadows closed in, swirling like smoke around a flame. Chloe's heart raced, the weight of impending doom pressing against her chest. Rachel stood firm, determination etched on her face, but even she faltered for a heartbeat as the cloaked figure stepped forward from the darkness. "Do you understand what you have unleashed?" The figure's voice was layered with ancient echoes, a haunting melody that sent shivers through Chloe's spine. The words hung in the air, thick with an unsettling gravity. Confusion flooded Chloe's mind. What do you mean?" The cloaked figure raised a hand, and an icy breeze swept through the chamber. Shadows hissed and writhed, the air thickening with tension. Psalm 128 is not merely scripture, it is a binding, a curse and a blessing intertwined. Your family's inheritance carries a weight you cannot yet fathom. Rachel leaned closer, her voice urgent. "Chloe, we have to listen. This is the key. The truth lies within." "Truth?" Chloe shot back, anger bubbling beneath her fear. "Lies and sacrifices, how is that truth?" With a profound sigh, the figure replied, "To uncover the truth, you must confront the sins of your bloodline. Each shadow here is a fragment of that history, lost souls seeking redemption or vengeance." A dagger of realization struck Chloe. Each figure swirling in the darkness had their own story, their own grievance. They weren't just foreign phantoms, they were a part of her, echoing the pain and choices of those who came before. "Don't fight them alone," Rachel urged, squeezing Chloe's arm. Her warmth felt like an anchor in the storm. "Embrace the legacy, but do it on your terms." But it was hard to see a path through the chaos. Chloe felt torn. What if this was all just a manipulation? Was she destined to walk a road paved with her ancestors' regrets, or could she forge a new destiny? The shadows extended their bony fingers towards her, groans rising as they seemed to sense her hesitation. She gripped the knife tighter, her knuckles whitening. "Stay back," she shouted. "I refuse to let you control me." With that, a surge of light exploded from deep within her, a golden glow rippling across the room. The shadows hissed, recoiling from the brightness, their hunger momentarily stifled. The light pulsed like her heartbeat, fierce and relentless. Rachel's eyes widened in awe. "That's it, Chloe. You're stronger than you realize." The figure in robes unleashed a guttural laugh, its tone laced with both fear and admiration. "So there is light within you, but light alone cannot vanquish the darkness." Chloe took a deep breath, the balance between her light and the shadows beginning to crystallize in her mind. "I won't let the past dictate my future. I'll confront the darkness and unravel this legacy." The moment surged with electricity, a cosmic acknowledgement echoing in the air. But in the depths of her determination lay a flicker of doubt. How far would she have to go to reclaim the light? As she planted her feet, resolute in her defiance, the shadows began to swirl again, more erratic than before, as if sensing a change in the wind. The cloaked figure raised a hand, whispering incantations that reverberated against the ancient stones. "I warn you, Chloe. Every choice has a consequence. Will you bear the burden of your family's past?" Chloe's heart raced, fear intermingling with wildfire determination. "I will," she shouted, boxing her fear with defiance. But just as she summoned her will to strike, she felt a shift of powerful force behind her, suddenly cold. The cloaked figure grinned, a knowing glint in its shadowed eyes. Then let the ceremony begin. Before she could react, the ground trembled, and the shadows surged hungrily forward, ready to reclaim her. Chloe screamed, but the sound echoed back in mockery. The line between past and present blurred in that terrifying moment. Was she truly prepared for what lay ahead? The darkness closed in, drumming louder against her ears as reality twisted dangerously. She took a quick glance back at Rachel, who felt like the last vestige of hope. Would they stand strong against this dark legacy together, or would they be drawn into the void, their fates twisted like smoke in the air? And as the shadows consumed them, Chloe was left questioning not just the past, but the choices yet to come. What would she sacrifice for the truth? Would it be enough to alter the course of her destiny? The tremors beneath Chloe's feet grew stronger. She could feel the vibrations gnawing at her resolve, a pulse that thrummed like a heartbeat, a dark heartbeat. The shadows twisted, swirling with a sinister energy that threatened to swallow her whole. "Chloe." Rachel's voice cut through the chaos, a beacon of clarity. "We have to move. We can't let them take you." But Chloe was rooted in place, the weight of the cloaked figure's words settling in her bones. Every shadow was a reflection of her ancestry, secrets she had never sought but could no longer ignore. "Choose wisely, Chloe," the figure crooned, its voice dripping with malice. "Your family's legacy is a double-edged sword. Embrace it or be consumed." Chloe's instincts screamed at her. She didn't want this twisted inheritance, she craved freedom. Still, the shadows clawed at her mind, seductive whispers weaving through her thoughts, reminding her of the pain, loss, and regret that echoed in her bloodline. "Focus on the light," Rachel yelled, her arms still holding on to Chloe, grounding her amidst the sway of darkness. "That's your strength. You can change everything." Taking a deep breath, Chloe closed her eyes, desperately seeking the glowing warmth she had sensed inside her. The shadows clawed at her awareness, cold and relentless, threatening to extinguish that light. She thought of her family, not just the torment but also the love, the moments that had shaped who she was. "I will not let you win," she shouted, her eyes snapping open, fierce as the golden light flooded from within her once more. A surge of energy pulsed through her veins, illuminating the chamber in a warm glow that dispelled the chill darkness. The shadows hissed, wailing like tormented souls denied their retribution. They recoiled, malice twisting into fury. "Light will not save you," the cloaked figure howled, its voice rising above the cacophony. You must make a choice, sacrifice someone dear to you for true power. Chloe's heart dropped. The threat hung heavy in the air, laced with implications. What kind of sacrifice? What would she have to give up to gain control? Chloe. Whatever it is, we can face it together. Rachel implored, her own fear shining through. A darker corner of Chloe's mind whispered that she didn't know who to trust. What if Rachel's support came with its own cost? The shadows pressed closer, and Chloe hesitated, afraid of betrayal lurking in familiar faces. Decide. The shadowy figure cried, raising its hands in a gesture that made the shadows swirl faster, their forms indistinct yet palpable. This power comes at a cost, your legacy demands it. With each word, the darkness seeped closer, its voices blending into a hellish choir of despair, each sound a reminder of her shadows. Memories flooded her, her father's face, her mother's laughter, moments of joy wrapped in family. Your mother was a coward, the cloaked figure taunted, its tone like ice. Would you be like her? The thought struck deep. No. She wasn't her mother. She was fierce and determined. With a newfound clarity, she grasped Rachel's hand tighter. I won't let fear dictate my choices. Chloe cried, feeling the light within her surge anew, stronger than before. But the shadows answered with a deafening roar, a rush of darkness pooling around them, grasping for purchase. Chloe could feel Rachel's grip slipping, the weight of destiny pulling them apart. Chloe! Don't let go! Rachel screamed, her voice fighting against the roar of swirling shadows, and in that moment, Chloe was faced with the hardest decision she would ever have to make. Would she cling to the hope of the light, potentially losing Rachel in the process? Or would she embrace the shadows and discover what they had to reveal about her family's past, even if it meant losing a piece of herself? As the darkness surged forward, stretching its claws towards the two, Chloe's heart thundered in her chest. If only she knew how to balance the light and the dark. Whatever I have to do, it will be worth it. She shouted into the abyss, but would her resolve be enough to keep Rachel safe? Before she could gather her thoughts, the shadows surged like water over stone, threatening to erase everything she knew, leaving only the question of who she would become by the end of it all. The air around them pressed heavy with tension. Would Chloe be able to wield the darkness without letting it consume her? And what dark truth might she uncover about her family in the process? Chloe's heart raced as the shadows closed in, their icy tendrils brushing against her skin like ghostly fingers. The swirling darkness felt alive, hungry for despair. The cloaked figure loomed closer, its presence suffocating, pushing her to the edge of a precipice she had never wanted to approach. Choose. It commanded again, voice echoing like thunder, but she could only think of Rachel, whose frantic pleas sliced through the overwhelming noise of chaos. Chloe. Focus on me. Digging her nails into Rachel's hand, Chloe made a decision. I want to let you take me. With a surge of defiance, she channeled the light within, envisioning it as a solid armor, radiant and warm. The golden glow flared, illuminating the chamber like a burst of sunshine breaking through storm clouds. The shadows let out a howling wail, recoiling as if burned. You cannot escape your legacy. It will always find you. The figure screamed, frustration leaking into its tone. The darkness writhed away from her light but then regrouped with a vengeance, swirling in a tempest of shadows that threatened to engulf her once more. Chloe felt the weight of her family's history bearing down on her, a legacy steeped in blood, fear, and power. Could she truly defy it? She could feel it pulling at her, intoxicating in its promise. Chloe, listen to me. Rachel's voice surged with urgency, shaking her from her spiraling thoughts. We need to break this together. Chloe looked into Rachel's eyes, and in that fleeting moment, she saw the truth, loyalty mingled with fear. Rachel's life was also at stake. The sacrifice the figure demanded was more than a riddle, it was a threat. Each choice carried a weight that could shatter their bond. Do you truly believe there is a way out? Chloe asked, voice trembling. What if I chose the darkness? Rachel's expression hardened. Then you'd lose yourself. We're stronger fighting it together, I promise. Chloe's pulse quickened, an electric current of fear and hope. She could feel the shadows stirring again, sensing her uncertainty. They morphed into familiar faces: her mother, her father, each one calling, begging her to accept her roots. Join me, Chloe, the cloaked figure enticed, spreading its arms wide. Embrace the full extent of your power. You can control this. You can control it all. She shook her head, a desperate instinct rising within her. You're lying. My family isn't just darkness. I have light, too. Her voice started to tremble with conviction as the flickering light around her grew brighter. Something must be sacrificed. The figure yelled, its voice booming against the growing light, an animalistic roar mingled with desperation. As darkness coiled at her feet, the entity stepped forward, closer than ever. Choose. Choose your sacrifice now and seize your destiny. Get away from us. Rachel screamed, and Chloe felt the intensity of their combined energy surging like a tidal wave. In that moment, everything hung in the balance. The swirling shadows pressed against her, threatening to tear them apart, but the light began to push back, stronger, more resolute. An idea sparked in Chloe's mind, one that made her heart clench with dual fear and strength. Perhaps, she began, her voice steadying, it's not about choosing between light and dark. Maybe I can reveal the truth of my family's legacy, expose it all. The figure faltered, a flicker of confusion crossing its shadowed visage. What do you mean? Chloe took a deep breath, channeling everything she had into her next words. I'll expose the darkness. I'll share our story, our truth with everyone. And then, you will have no power left. A crack formed in the dark aura, uncertainty creeping into its depths. As the shadows surged forwards again, Chloe squeezed Rachel's hand one last time, feeling a surge of solidarity, but the figure laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the collapsing light. You think knowledge will save you? You know nothing of the depths you'd have to plunge into. The shadows roared, a terrifying chorus, and with one last look at Rachel, Chloe straightened her spine. I'll face whatever I must. Together, we'll unveil the truth, and we're not afraid of the shadows anymore. With every ounce of power left in her being, Chloe released the light, aiming straight for the heart of the darkness, determined to uncover the secrets that twisted her family's name. As the golden blaze surged forward, the shadows recoiled, but not without retaliating. A chorus of whispers enveloped their world, revealing splashes of memory and betrayal that chained her ancestors. Suddenly, a chilling scream pierced the air, echoing the realization that the confrontation had only just begun. Chloe! Rachel screamed, her voice tinged with terror, as the shadows morphed again, revealing one final surprise, one that would shake the core of Chloe's resolve. What awaited her in the darkness might shatter everything she thought she knew about her family. Could she truly face the truth, or would she succumb to the shadows she sought to destroy? The shadows convulsed, swirling around them in a frenzy of malevolent energy. Chloe felt her breath hitch as the chilling scream echoed again, piercing through the suffocating darkness. A figure emerged from the smoke, grotesque and familiar, her own face twisted into a mockery of the person she was. Look upon your heir, Chloe, it taunted, eyes gleaming with a terrible light. This is the destiny you're trying to escape. Rachel pressed closer to Chloe, her eyes wide with horror. No. That's not how. Is that even possible? The disbelief in Rachel's voice crumbled into fear. Chloe felt the ground beneath her shaking, the shadows pulsating with anger at the image of her mirrored self. What do you want from me? She shouted, trembling. I refuse to be a pawn in your game. With every heartbeat, the other Chloe's expression twisted further, morphing into snapshots of her ancestors, faces laden with regret and anguish. Each one seemed to cry out, their pain resonating with her own insecurities. You think you are different? You are destined to follow our path, just as we did. Shut up! Chloe roared, the glowing warmth of her light flickering as she tried to contain her rising panic. A blinding luminescence burst forth, streaming from her core, the heat pushing against the onslaught of shadow. "I'm not just my family's past." The mirrored figure laughed, a sound dripping with malice. "Then who are you, Chloe? What makes you so special? You're weak, just like the rest. You belong to the darkness." Chloe's heart felt like it was tearing in two. For every flicker of light that surged through her, the shadows swallowed it whole, consuming her with doubt. "I want to break this cycle," she cried, sending tendrils of light racing towards the figure, but instead of vanquishing the shades, the light coiled into a crimson mist, revealing the ghostly images of her family's past wrongs. Betrayals, dark magic rituals, each shimmering scene unfolded into view, and their bitter echoes infiltrated her thoughts. "Do you see now?" the figure hissed. "This is your legacy. You can't escape it. You must choose. All of this, it's just a weight to bear." Chloe shouted, desperation creeping into her voice. Could she ever truly sever the ties? Rachel squeezed her hand tightly, grounding her. "We'll find a way. Just keep fighting." But the shadows surged again, a swirling frenzy of despair clawing at Chloe. Old wounds burned within her as if the darkness was peeling at her skin to expose her true nature. "You'll suffer in eternal silence," the shadows whispered, coiling around her throat, choking out her defiance. Chloe's mind flashed back to her family stories, tales where her ancestors wielded darkness like a weapon, where their selfishness had brought ruin. What if the truth set her free, but instead, it forged chains? In the chaos, something flickered in the corner of her mind. Psalm 128. The whispers echoed in her ears, blessings tied to curses, dark secrets too long buried. She had seen something in her grandmother's old texts, something that could change everything. "Wait. I remember there's more to our story. There's a reason for all this." She shouted, the words bursting forth as realization ignited a spark of hope. She could weave her family's truth into something powerful, something that would lift the weight of their dark legacy. The shadows shivered as if Chloe's newfound resolve struck them. "You think you can turn the tide?" the figure shrieked, its voice void of the confidence it once had. "You will never control what's rooted in darkness. Watch me." Chloe roared, pulling the energy from the shadows, combining it with her light, just as the vortex of energy surged towards the mirror image that was her ancestor. Time froze. A fractured scream sliced through the tension, sending ripples of uncertainty through the air. The shadows balked, caught off guard by this unexpected shift. Rachel gasped, staring at Chloe, fear and awe mingling in her gaze. "What's happening?" Chloe felt the connection unraveling as a split-second decision hung in the air, realizing one last truth: to change the fate, she might have to sacrifice parts of herself in the process. Darkness clawed back fiercely, sensing her hesitation, and it lunged for Chloe, ready to drag her into its depths. She closed her eyes, praying that she had the strength to confront it. As the world around them began to collapse, reality fractured, ready to unveil the hidden truths, righteous and horrible. But could she complete the final unraveling of secrets she wasn't ready to confront? The shadows surged, the scream escalating, and in the dark belly of the storm, Chloe braced herself for the unknown. Would unveiling the secret truly save her or doom them both? Chloe's grasp on Rachel tightened as the vortex enveloped them, every fiber screaming for resolve. Then a spark of light shot through. She had to find the answers. What new revelation awaited in the darkness? What dark blessing had set their world into chaos? Chloe felt the shadows close in, the air around her thick with dread and memories just out of reach. But as the storm of darkness encircled her, she remembered her mother's voice echoing from the past: "Every shadow has a story." It was now or never. This was her moment to rewrite that story. "Sacrifices don't have to break us," she screamed, shoving against the mass of shadow that clawed at her will. "They can set us free." The room erupted with blinding light, illuminating the grim silhouettes that had haunted her family for generations. The darkness writhed and roared, viscerally reacting to her newfound defiance. She could feel the roots of her ancestry growl beneath her feet, the echoes of her family's choices and the sacrifices they had made. They fought among themselves, battling for control, but Chloe stood resilient at the center, unyielding, with every ounce of strength pumping through her veins. She poured her essence into the light, letting it flow into the shadows that surrounded her. "You do not own me," she cried, tossing back their malevolence. "I am not defined by your pain." The blurred images of her ancestors flickered before her, moments of love, laughter, loss, sorrow, and anger. Each moment spoke of the sacrifices made, but hidden in these fragments was the choice that would chart a new course, a choice to embrace both light and dark, to allow understanding and acceptance, rather than fear to rule her fate. "Bind the darkness to the truth," she shouted, realizing the weight of power was not in exclusion, but in unity. "If you haunt me, you do it in the light." The shadows hesitated, the noise surrounding her reduced to a whisper, as her voice echoed through the void. Rachel, still steadfast at her side, lifted her chin in determination. "Together, we can face whatever this is, Chloe. You have the power within, let us shape our destiny." With their hands locked in solidarity, Chloe's force grew, luminous energy encasing them both. The dark figure that boasted a mockery of her face flinched, rage twisting the shadow where her family's tumult lay. "You can't escape your fate," it hissed, tauntingly circling around them, but Chloe pushed through its words, fueled by the force of their unity. "I'll pull you into the light, and you will see," she shouted, letting her voice sing into the silence. The shadows paused, light piercing through the veil, illuminating truths hidden for too long. As luminescence surged throughout the void, it coated everything in shades of golden warmth. The dark figures writhed, faces contorting in anguish as if the brightness exposed wounds too deep to bear. Their cries merged into roars, dispersing the remnants of age-old grievances. Chloe could feel them loosening the grip on her heart, the ties of generations unraveling. With a final surge, Chloe embraced the radiant revelation. The memories of her ancestors poured in like a raging river, joy mingled with pain, losses transforming into lessons, and finally, the whispers of forgiveness rose to meet her ears. Chloe envisioned it all, weaving the strength of her family's past into a vibrant tapestry of connection. "I break the curse," she yelled, voice echoing power and clarity. "And I do it for you." A bright wave crashed outwards, illuminating the room until it felt as if the darkness was dissolving in realms of pure brightness beyond comprehension, an eternity away from pain. And the aftermath, as dust settled like petals on soft grass, the shadows withdrew, whispering mournfully. Silence enveloped Chloe and Rachel, thick with resolution. "I did it," Chloe breathed, the weight of her loamy history easing. Rachel held her tight, tears glistening in her eyes. "We did it together." As they emerged from the night, the sun painted the sky with hues of dawn. In that moment of new beginnings, Chloe felt everything shift profoundly within her. A cycle broken, a legacy redefined. The past was still part of her, yet now she could borrow from its strength, not be chained to its burdensome weight, and so onto the horizon stretched a path of promise, free from shackles, ready to shape a future defined by love, understanding, and courage. Chloe turned to Rachel, a smile blooming on her face. They had faced the darkness, uncovered the painful truths, and emerged victorious. "Let us tell our story," she said with newfound excitement, and together, they set off toward the warmth of the morning light, liberated, hopeful, and ready to live on their terms. Remember, this story is just the beginning, there are more secrets yet to uncover. So, if you want to continue this journey and dive into more thrilling tales, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to join our incredible community. You'll miss out on the next exclusive content if you don't. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep this channel thriving, and flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about Chloe's triumph. What did you think of her journey? Did you see it coming? Lastly, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience the power of this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.